In a bombshell revelation that has sent shockwaves through the entertainment world, newly released evidence from a March 2024 FBI raid on Sean Diddy Combs' Los Angeles mansion paints a chilling picture of a twisted inner sanctum. Unveiled on June 20, 2025, during his ongoing Manhattan sex trafficking trial, photos of a meticulously curated stash of 200 bottles of baby oil and 900 bottles of Astroglide lubricant, stored in what appears to be a humidity-controlled container, have stunned jurors and the public alike. Homeland Security Investigations Special Agent Andre Lemon testified that this discovery was unprecedented in his 50-plus investigations, hinting at the depravity of Combs' alleged freak-off sex parties. As prosecutors pile on charges of sex trafficking, racketeering, and prostitution, this damning evidence could escalate Combs' potential sentence to life in prison, threatening to dismantle the legacy of the Bad Boy Records mogul. The world watches as Diddy's empire crumbles under the weight of these sordid accusations. On March 25, 2024, federal agents stormed Sean Diddy Combs' lavish Holmby Hills mansion in Los Angeles, a seismic event that reverberated through Hollywood and beyond. The raid, executed by Homeland Security Investigations under the direction of the Southern District of New York, targeted the music mogul as part of a sprawling sex trafficking investigation. What agents uncovered inside the 17,000-square-foot estate, a glittering symbol of Combs' empire, was nothing short of staggering. A chilling arsenal of AR-15-style rifles, some with defaced serial numbers, bags of drugs including cocaine, ketamine, and MDMA, and an astonishing cache of 200 bottles of baby oil and 900 bottles of Astroglide lubricant, meticulously stored in what appeared to be a humidity-controlled container. This discovery, revealed through evidence photos released on June 20, 2025, during Combs' ongoing Manhattan trial, painted a damning picture of a man whose public persona masked alleged depravity. Special Agent Andre Lemon, a seasoned investigator with over 50 search warrants under his belt, testified that the scale of the lubricant stash was unprecedented, describing it as a jaw-dropping find unique to Combs' case. The photos, shown to jurors, depicted rows of neatly arranged bottles, suggesting a level of premeditation that prosecutors argue points to a sophisticated criminal enterprise. The drugs, some stamped with a Tesla logo, and the firearms, including a loaded .45 caliber handgun and a drum magazine with armor-piercing rounds, further fueled allegations of a violent, coercive operation. The raid, broadcast live on television, captivated the nation, shattering Combs' carefully curated image as a hip-hop icon and entrepreneur. Social media platforms like X erupted with speculation, with many questioning how the Bad Boy Records founder could have hidden such dark secrets behind his billionaire facade. Prosecutors assert that the items seized, lubricants, drugs, and weapons, were tools in Combs' alleged sex trafficking scheme, used to facilitate and enforce the freak-off parties central to the charges. The defense, led by Mark Agnifilo, has scrambled to downplay the findings, claiming the items were misinterpreted or unrelated to criminal activity. Yet, the sheer volume and organization of the evidence make such arguments tenuous. As the trial progresses, this raid's revelations could prove pivotal, with prosecutors leveraging them to push for a life sentence, threatening to dismantle Combs' legacy forever. The discovery of 200 bottles of baby oil and 900 bottles of Astroglide lubricant, meticulously stored in what appears to be a humidity-controlled container, has emerged as the most sensational and controversial element of Sean Diddy Combs' Manhattan sex trafficking trial. Unveiled through evidence photos released on June 20, 2025, this staggering cache, seized during a March 2024 FBI raid on Combs' Los Angeles mansion, has captivated jurors and the public, becoming a grotesque symbol of the alleged depravity at the heart of the case. Prosecutors assert that these lubricants were integral to Combs' freak-off sex parties, drug-fueled, coercive marathons involving women and male escorts allegedly manipulated through violence, blackmail, and intoxication. Homeland Security Investigations Special Agent Andre Lemon, with over 50 human trafficking and smuggling probes under his belt, testified that the sheer volume of lubricants was unprecedented, describing it as a jaw-dropping find that stood out starkly in his career. The meticulous organization, with bottles neatly arranged and possibly preserved in a climate-controlled environment, suggests a calculated operation, not a quirky habit, pointing to a chilling level of premeditation. Defense attorney Mark Agnifilo has scrambled to defuse the scandal, arguing that Combs merely buys in bulk like any other American, a claim that has been met with widespread skepticism and ridicule on platforms like X, where users have mocked the explanation as absurd given the scale. Prosecutors counter that the 1,100 bottles of lubricant are not a trivial detail but evidence of systemic abuse, supporting allegations that Combs orchestrated a criminal enterprise designed to exploit and degrade victims. Witness testimonies, including that of Cassie Ventura, describe the use of baby oil in these events, with victims coerced into reapplying it to maintain a glistening appearance during degrading performances. The public's fascination with this evidence, amplified by viral memes and heated online debates, underscores its potential to sway jurors. The lubricant stash paints Combs as the mastermind of a sinister operation, a perception that could tip the scales toward a harsher sentence. As the trial nears its expected July 4, 2025, conclusion, this bizarre yet damning evidence threatens to cement Combs' fate, potentially leading to a life sentence and the permanent collapse of his once untouchable legacy. Cassie Ventura, Sean Diddy Combs' former girlfriend, delivered a gut-wrenching, 4-day testimony in his Manhattan sex trafficking trial, laying bare a decade of alleged abuse that has become a cornerstone of the prosecution's case. Her account, detailed and harrowing, described a relationship marked by coercion, violence, and psychological torment, painting Combs as a controlling predator who wielded his power to exploit her. Ventura recounted being coerced into participating in Combs' infamous freak-off sex parties, drug-fueled events where she was allegedly directed to perform sexual acts with male escorts while Combs watched, recorded, and orchestrated the scenes. She testified that these encounters left her feeling disgusting and physically pained, with Combs insisting she reapply baby oil to maintain a glistening appearance, a detail that ties directly to the 1,100 bottles of lubricant found in his Los Angeles mansion during the March 2024 FBI raid. The photos of this stash, released on June 20, 2025, amplified the impact of her words, providing physical evidence of the alleged depravity. Ventura also accused Combs of brutal physical violence, describing beatings that left visible bruises on her body. Prosecutors presented photographs to the jury, corroborating her claims and underscoring the fear she lived in. Her mother, Regina Ventura, added to the damning narrative, testifying that Combs extorted $20,000 from her under the pretense of ensuring her daughter's safety, a chilling revelation that highlighted Combs' alleged manipulation. These accounts, paired with text messages and videos seized during the raid, depict a pattern of control and coercion that aligns with the prosecution's sex trafficking and racketeering charges. Ventura's 2023 civil lawsuit against Combs, settled quickly but sparking the federal investigation, laid the groundwork for this trial, making her testimony a pivotal moment. The defense, led by Mark Agnifilo, has attacked Ventura's credibility, suggesting her allegations stem from jealousy or mutual drug use, but her emotional delivery and the corroborating evidence have resonated in the courtroom. Social media, particularly X, has rallied behind Ventura, with many praising her courage. If jurors find her credible, her testimony could significantly bolster the sex trafficking charges, pushing Combs closer to a life sentence. As the trial progresses toward its expected July 4, 2025, conclusion, Ventura's words stand as a powerful indictment, threatening to dismantle Combs' empire and legacy forever. The term freak-off has become a chilling shorthand for the darkest accusations leveled against Sean Diddy Combs in his Manhattan sex trafficking trial, encapsulating a world of alleged depravity and exploitation. Prosecutors assert these were meticulously orchestrated, drug-fueled sex performances where women and men were coerced through a toxic mix of violence, drugs, and blackmail. Evidence unearthed during the March 2024 FBI raid on Combs' Los Angeles mansion, including videos allegedly recorded by Combs himself, bolsters claims that he used these recordings as blackmail to silence victims, ensuring their compliance and complicity. Witnesses, including a male escort who described the events as disturbing and former employees who feared retaliation, have delivered damning testimony about the degrading nature of these gatherings. Often staged in hotel suites stocked with drugs like cocaine and MDMA, alongside the now infamous 200 bottles of baby oil and 900 bottles of Astroglide lubricant, these events were allegedly designed to degrade and exploit participants. The prosecution argues that the lubricants, stored in a humidity-controlled container, were not mere accessories but instruments of a criminal enterprise, with their sheer volume, 1,100 bottles, indicating the frequency and premeditation of the freak-offs. Text messages presented in court, revealing victims' anguish and reluctance, further dismantle the defense's claim that these were consensual, part of a swinger lifestyle. Combs' legal team, led by Mark Agnifilo, has struggled to counter the prosecution's narrative, with their arguments appearing flimsy against the backdrop of physical evidence and witness accounts. The scale and organization of the lubricant stash, paired with seized drugs and weapons, strengthen the racketeering conspiracy charge, suggesting a systemic operation orchestrated by Combs. Public reaction has been visceral, with platforms like X and Facebook ablaze with discussions about the freak-offs, many branding Combs a predator. As evidence mounts, videos, texts, and testimonies, the prosecution's case grows ironclad, potentially convincing jurors of Combs' guilt. If convicted, the racketeering and sex trafficking charges could lead to decades behind bars or even a life in prison. As the trial nears its July 4, 2025, conclusion, the freak-off allegations threaten to not only end Combs' legacy but also expose the underbelly of power and abuse in his empire. Beyond the 200 bottles of baby oil and 900 bottles of Astroglide, agents discovered disassembled AR-15 style rifles, some with defaced serial numbers, a loaded .45 caliber handgun, and a drum magazine packed with armor-piercing bullets. These weapons, detailed by Homeland Security Investigations Special Agent Gerard Gannon during Combs' Manhattan sex trafficking trial, suggest a capacity for intimidation that went beyond psychological coercion. Alongside the firearms, agents seized bags of cocaine, ketamine, MDMA, and Xanax, some marked with a Tesla logo, painting a picture of a mansion transformed into a fortress of criminal activity. These findings, revealed through evidence photos released on June 20, 2025, have bolstered the prosecution's narrative of a dangerous enterprise orchestrated by Combs. Prosecutors argue that these items were not incidental but integral to Combs' alleged control over victims. The drugs, they claim, fueled the coercive freak-off sex parties, lowering victims' defenses and ensuring compliance, while the guns served as a menacing backdrop, enforcing submission through fear. Gannon's testimony highlighted the meticulous nature of the raid, with agents uncovering drugs hidden in various locations, suggesting premeditated use. The presence of armor-piercing ammunition, in particular, has shocked jurors, hinting at a level of preparedness for violence that aligns with allegations of Combs' ruthless tactics. The prosecution ties these findings to witness accounts, including Cassie Ventura's testimony of physical abuse, to argue that Combs wielded both substances and weapons to maintain power. Combs' defense, led by Mark Agnifilo, has challenged the raid's thoroughness, suggesting that items may have been misplaced or misinterpreted by overzealous agents targeting a powerful black man. However, the sheer volume and specificity of the evidence, drugs stamped with logos, defaced firearms, and high-capacity magazines, make these claims difficult to sustain. As the trial nears its July 4, 2025, conclusion, this arsenal of guns and drugs could tip the scales toward a harsher sentence, portraying Combs as a dangerous figure orchestrating a violent, exploitative empire, potentially facing life in prison. Sean Diddy Combs' legal team, led by high-profile attorneys Mark Agnifilo and Tenny Geragos, has launched a fierce defense in his Manhattan sex trafficking trial, portraying the hip-hop mogul as a victim of a vindictive, racially charged prosecution. Facing damning evidence from the March 2024 FBI raid, including 1,100 bottles of lubricant, drugs, and firearms, the defense argues that Combs' freak-off sex parties were consensual, part of a swinger lifestyle common among the elite. Agnifilo has dismissed the sensational lubricant stash, 200 bottles of baby oil and 900 bottles of Astroglide, as nothing more than bulk purchasing, a claim that has sparked skepticism and mockery across platforms like X. The team has also challenged the execution of the raid on Combs' Los Angeles mansion, suggesting that items like AR-15 rifles and drugs may have been misplaced or misinterpreted by overzealous agents targeting Combs due to his status as a powerful black man. This racial bias argument, while provocative, has struggled to gain traction in court. The defense has aggressively attacked witness credibility, particularly that of Cassie Ventura, whose 4-day testimony detailed a decade of alleged abuse. Agnifilo suggested her accusations stem from mutual jealousy and drug use in their relationship, attempting to paint her as an unreliable narrator. However, Prosecutors have countered with text messages and videos seized during the raid, which reveal victims' distress and reluctance, undermining the defense's narrative of consent. These exhibits, presented alongside photos released on June 20, 2025, showing the meticulously stored lubricants, have made it difficult for the defense to dismiss the allegations as mere lifestyle choices. The team's attempt to discredit the transportation for prostitution charge by citing the Mann Act's historically racist origins has similarly faltered, with the judge showing little sympathy for the argument. Public sentiment, amplified on social media, has largely rejected the defense's claims, with many viewing them as desperate attempts to deflect from overwhelming evidence. The prosecution's case, bolstered by physical items like defaced firearms, drugs stamped with a Tesla logo, and witness accounts, paints Combs as the orchestrator of a coercive criminal enterprise. As the trial approaches its expected July 4, 2025, conclusion, the defense's strategies appear increasingly shaky, struggling against the weight of incriminating evidence. If jurors remain unconvinced, Combs faces a heightened risk of a life sentence, threatening to end his legacy in disgrace. Prosecutors in Sean Diddy Combs' Manhattan sex trafficking trial allege that the hip-hop mogul weaponized his sprawling business empire, encompassing Bad Boy Records, Sean John Clothing, and Ciroc Vodka, to orchestrate a sophisticated criminal enterprise. Far from being a mere backdrop, Combs' corporate infrastructure allegedly played a central role in facilitating his crimes, with employees, including personal assistants, security staff, and label executives, implicated in enabling and concealing his actions. Former assistant David James testified about grueling work hours and Combs' explicit demands to prepare hotel rooms with candles, baby oil, and other supplies for the notorious freak-off sex parties. These accounts, corroborated by the March 2024 FBI raid's findings, 1,100 bottles of lubricant, drugs, and firearms, paint a chilling picture of a calculated operation. The prosecution argues that this evidence, including flight itineraries and American Express statements linking Combs to victims' travel across state lines, demonstrates a racketeering conspiracy with Combs as the mastermind. Witnesses like Capricorn Clark, a former employee, have provided explosive testimony, alleging Combs ordered violent acts to maintain control, including a 2011 break-in at rapper Kid Cudi's home, purportedly motivated by jealousy over Cudi's relationship with Cassie Ventura. These accounts suggest that Combs leveraged his wealth and influence to intimidate and manipulate, using corporate resources to orchestrate travel, secure venues, and cover up abuses. Seized documents, including email correspondences and payment records, further tie Combs' businesses to the logistics of the alleged freak-offs, with staff reportedly tasked with stocking rooms and silencing victims. The prosecution contends that this systemic involvement elevates the charges to racketeering, portraying Combs' empire as a machine designed to exploit and control. The defense, led by Mark Agnifilo, has argued that these activities were part of Combs' legitimate business operations, dismissing the allegations as exaggerated. However, the physical evidence from the raid, released on June 20, 2025, and the detailed witness testimonies challenge this narrative, suggesting a deliberate misuse of power. Social media platforms like X have amplified public outrage, with many decrying Combs' alleged exploitation of his empire. If jurors accept the prosecution's argument, the racketeering charge could lead to a severe sentence, potentially life in prison, dismantling the empire Combs built over decades. As the trial nears its July 4, 2025, conclusion, the evidence threatens to expose the dark underbelly of Combs' success, forever tarnishing his legacy. The release of shocking FBI raid photos on June 20, 2025, from Sean Diddy Combs' Los Angeles mansion has unleashed a firestorm of public outrage and morbid fascination, dominating discourse on social media platforms like X. Posts fixating on the 1,000 bottles of baby oil and 900 bottles of Astroglide have branded the lubricant stash a grotesque symbol of Combs' alleged depravity, fueling viral memes and heated debates about his guilt. The graphic details of the Manhattan sex trafficking trial, including testimonies about freak-off parties, have polarized fans. Some, allegedly paid to wear free Diddy shirts, defend Combs, while others demand justice for victims like Cassie Ventura, amplifying their voices online. This public scrutiny, amplified by relentless media coverage, could subtly pressure jurors to deliver a harsh verdict, consciously or not, as the trial nears its expected July 4, 2025, conclusion. Celebrities have not escaped the fallout. Kanye West, spotted briefly at the courthouse, faced swift backlash for appearing to support Combs, with ex-users accusing him of endorsing a predator. Jennifer Lopez, linked to Combs through their late 90s relationship, has been reluctantly dragged into the narrative, with tabloids speculating about her knowledge of his activities. Other former associates, like Jay-Z, have faced scrutiny, though none have been formally implicated. The trial's revelations, drugs, guns, and coercive sex parties, have turned Combs' once glamorous image into a cautionary tale, with the lubricant stash becoming a morbid punchline. As evidence mounts, including videos and witness accounts, public sentiment leans heavily against Combs, with many on X calling for accountability. This tidal wave of condemnation threatens to cement a guilty verdict, potentially leading to a life sentence that would irreparably tarnish Combs' legacy, reducing a hip-hop titan to a symbol of scandal and abuse. Sean Diddy Combs faces a precarious future in his Manhattan sex trafficking trial, charged with 5 federal counts that could reshape his legacy into one of infamy: 2 counts of sex trafficking, 2 counts of transportation for prostitution, and 1 count of racketeering conspiracy. A conviction on all charges carries a mandatory minimum of 15 years in prison, with the potential for a life sentence, a prospect that looms larger with each piece of damning evidence. The June 20, 2025, release of photos from the March 2024 FBI raid on Combs' Los Angeles mansion, showcasing 200 bottles of baby oil, 900 bottles of Astroglide, drugs, and firearms, has significantly bolstered the prosecution's case. Prosecutors argue that the lubricant stash, stored in a humidity-controlled container, was not a quirk but a tool in a sophisticated trafficking operation, used to facilitate the coercive freak-off sex parties central to the allegations. This evidence, paired with seized videos and text messages showing victims' distress, paints a vivid picture of Combs' alleged intent and control. The racketeering conspiracy charge, the most severe, hinges on proving Combs orchestrated a criminal enterprise through his business empire, leveraging employees to arrange travel, stock supplies, and silence victims. Witness testimonies, including Cassie Ventura's accounts of abuse and former assistant David James' descriptions of preparing rooms with lubricants, align with the raid's findings, strengthening this narrative. Legal analysts note that the graphic nature of the evidence, particularly the sheer volume of lubricants and the presence of defaced AR-15 rifles, could sway jurors emotionally, making a life sentence more likely. Combs' rejection of a plea deal, coupled with his legal team's failure to secure bail despite multiple attempts, underscores the gravity of his situation, leaving him detained as the trial progresses toward its expected July 4, 2025, conclusion. The defense, led by Mark Agnifilo, faces an uphill battle, with their claims of consensual swinger activities undermined by incriminating texts and videos. Public sentiment on platforms like X, fueled by the lurid details, leans heavily against Combs, potentially influencing the courtroom. If jurors accept the prosecution's portrayal of a calculated, violent operation, the racketeering and trafficking charges could lock Combs away for life, dismantling his empire and cementing his fall from grace as one of hip-hop's most shocking scandals. Once a titan of hip-hop and a self-made billionaire who transformed urban culture and business, Sean Diddy Combs now teeters on the edge of ruin. The explosive release of evidence on June 20, 2025, has irrevocably altered the course of his criminal trial and cemented it as one of the most consequential cultural reckonings of the decade. No longer just an entertainment mogul, Combs now stands accused of operating a dark and disturbing underworld behind the walls of his lavish empire. Among the most damning items revealed, a humidity-controlled stash of lubricant, multiple firearms, and illegal drugs, tools that prosecutors argue were central to a pattern of coercion, control, and sexual exploitation. According to investigators, these items weren't anomalies. They were instruments of dominance used in what the prosecution calls a years-long campaign of abuse targeting aspiring artists, employees, and intimate partners. Allegations range from drugging and assaulting victims to threats of retaliation for silence. As the trial progresses in a packed Manhattan federal courtroom, the prosecution's case is growing increasingly airtight. Witnesses like Brendan Paul, once Combs' trusted aide, and rapper Kid Cudi, who reportedly experienced threats firsthand, are expected to testify in the coming weeks. Each new testimony has the potential to erode what's left of Combs' public image, once gilded with Grammy Awards, business acumen, and philanthropic flair. On the defense side, Diddy's legal team, led by Mark Agnifilo and Tenny Geragos, has launched an aggressive counteroffensive, challenging the credibility of accusers and painting Combs as a victim of fame-driven conspiracies. Yet even their well-practiced arguments appear to buckle under the sheer volume of physical evidence and the emotional weight of victim testimonies. If convicted, Combs faces the prospect of spending the rest of his life behind bars. But even before the final verdict, his business ventures, from clothing lines and alcohol brands to music licensing deals, are unraveling. Several corporate partners have severed ties, and former allies have gone silent. This isn't just a trial, it's the dismantling of a cultural institution. Sean "Diddy" Combs, once the embodiment of success against all odds, now finds himself battling for his legacy in the courtroom. Whether he walks free or is sentenced, his fall from grace is already among the most dramatic in music history.